Good morning, friends. It is Lisa Mason Ziegler coming to you here from the Gardener's Workshop Farm. As you can see, I got a big old harvest here behind me, and glad you guys have joined me here today. So each Saturday morning, I kind of come on and share some seed starting, kind of what's going on here on my farm, as well as sharing how I do some of the things. And we have a lot to look at and talk about today. First, out of the gate, I have a lot of seedlings sitting here in front of me that I wanted to kind of show you guys and show kind of what stage everything is in. And then I've got a lot of sunflowers to sow. And I think I'm going to save that till last because I may not get them all done during the show, and I'll talk and then we'll do Q&A. And then, friends, I'm going to be talking to you about homemade blocking mix, and we'll talk more about that. And so if this is your first time joining us, please be welcomed. I'm glad you're here. And if you like what, I'm losing my voice, y'all. That just started. But of course, I've been in silence since this morning. I haven't been with anybody. Anyway, if you're liking what you're hearing and learning on here, you can help us to bring you even more content by subscribing if you're watching me on YouTube, and commenting, as well as over on Facebook, to like and share this broadcast. That makes the platforms show our stuff to more people that aren't in our circle. So we really, really love that. And I just absolutely love seeing the sunflower emojis. If y'all don't know what that is all about, if you see people posting that in the comments, those are some of our online course students. And we just love it when they call themselves out. And, you know, as we're getting ready to head into a huge enrollment period in this fall. My course enrolls the 1st of October, Jenny Loves mid-October, then Gretel and Steve's for hoop and greenhouses, and then Ellen Frost. We just really love it when our students identify themselves, because guess what? If you're wondering about our courses, you should reach out to that person on a DM and say, hey, what'd you think of that course? Was it helpful? Because we love word of mouth and people sharing about our stuff. So, and I will round it all up and do a Q&A at the very end. But let's get started because I want to talk about a lot of things. So first, I thought y'all would like to meet your babies. We started these last week. Here they are. This is that tray of the Pro Cut mix. This has all of the sunflower Pro Cut colors in it. And I sowed these, and I will tell you a new strategy that I'm following at this time of the year, because I am really, you know what, y'all? I made a mess. I watered these not long ago. I'm putting them on the ground now. I put them on the table here, and it kind of made a mess. So let me just wipe my table off. We have not a new problem, a more intense problem out. You know, normally I would have moved them outdoors into full sun out on our porch to grow on until it's time to plant them. But we are having a major problem. It's birds are just snipping the tops of them off. And at this time of the year, as the days are already getting shorter, right, I find that when I cover my trays with either an upside down bulb crate or row cover, they're elongating too much. That little bit of cutting off the sun really makes a big difference. So I'm leaving these guys indoors under grow lights till they're almost ready to be planted in the garden, just simply because I can't keep the birds from taking them out. So that was them. Guess who else, y'all? Get ready. Meet Sahara. Sahara is a rudbeckia. This is a cool flower, black-eyed Susan, and they're just being born. You can see many of them have actually already sprouted. The rest of them, if you could look down into the blocks, you could see the rest of them are coming along. So we are knee deep in cool flower seed starting around here. And look at this. And this really does have a little bit of water left in it. Let me see if I can pour it. So I don't pour it in my lap. Pour it off. I just watered right before I came on here. This is Status. We grow all of the colors of Status. This is the rose shades, which is that gorgeous magenta pink color. Rudbeckia is winter hardy to zone 5. That means if you live in zone 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you should definitely be fall planting. And we grow all the Rudbeckias. There's about 10 or 12 It's always changing, y'all, because I keep adding more. Grow all of them, and we grow all the status. Status, we have heard, is winter hardy to zone 7. This is a fairly new one for us to grow it under the cool flower concept, and does great. Amazing abundance and stem length when you fall plant it. And then I want to show you two that are not cool flowers. This is not the proper time to have the seedlings, but I'm working on a big project and we have big photo shoots coming up in the next weeks, and I have to have seedling images. This is Hyacinth Bean, and what I'm doing with this is showing the proper size to plant a 2-inch block. So, and these are kind of wet. Look at the root, y'all. This is what I would grow sweet peas in. And this is like the perfect, if you can tell how tall that is, it's like the 5-inch size. They're absolutely great. We only use the large block when the seed is too big to fit in. And you can learn all you need to learn about soil blocking, which is the method of seed starting that we practice in most of our flowers, over on my website, thegardenersworkshop.com. And look at this. You know what this is? Let me turn it. You can see it was a little leany. This is hibiscus Mahogany Splendor, which it turns purple, as it looks kind of like a cannabis plant when it grows up, and it's totally purple, and it looks like a maple tree. This is a great foliage. Again, this is another one for a photo shoot. It is too late to plant this now. These babies are just to have their picture taken in about 2 weeks, when they'll be the proper size to go out in the garden. And I just wanted to share them with you all, that soil blocking is the bomb, y'all. All right. So let's get on with our, so let's talk about blocking mix. So first off, I was going to make blocking mix here with you this morning, but there was just too many pieces for me to pull together, because first off, you really shouldn't sift anything indoors. It's just kind of dusty. We need to kind of set up for a different deal, but I'm going to show you some stuff. So here is the big announcement, is that, we are no longer able to offer the soil block and ready-made mix. We have a supply chain problem. And trust me, friends, nobody is more distressed about this than me. We sold tons of ready-made mix, but it's a thing of the past right now. So we are going back to our original roots, right? And making our own blocking mix at home. And I want to show you the components. And blocking mix is different than what the potting soil that you would use in the plug trays like we use for our sunflowers. Blocking mix, to make these little blocks that'll hold together when you go to handle them, when it's time to plant them, without a container, you can handle, like I just picked up that 2-inch block. That mix needs to bind together. And basically, it is just simply a mix of peat moss or cocoa fiber, whatever your choice is, and compost. Both have to be sifted. We'll talk about that in a minute. Mixed with some nutrients. And the nutrients are green sand and rock phosphate powder. Now, back when I started soil blocking 25 years ago, you would find rock phosphate powder and green sand right on the shelf in your nursery, right next to where the bone meal sits. These are the original organic fertilizer ingredients, right? And there was no problem with that. Well, over the last, starting about a decade ago, those types of fertilizers just kind of started disappearing, because manufacturers started making all these ready-made fertilizers, some organic, most not. And people stopped buying these raw materials. So the stores stopped carrying it, right? So when that happened, and we just got request after request and people in distress that couldn't find it, we actually packaged that. We've packaged this now close to a decade. This package is nothing but simply 50% green sand and 50% rock phosphate powder. Key word in that powder. And this is literally rock. I think this weighs like 2 pounds. And this is the nutrient you add to your compost and your peat moss. And this is simply what blocking the ready-made mix was made up of, right? Except that the rock that was in our ready-made mix was actually in a little bit bigger chunks. But this is actually really fine sand-like, and it's really easy to mix. Now, I have big news to share, but I don't have, it's not on our website yet, and we should be receiving it by the end of this coming week, which this is, what is today? August 20th of 2022, if you're watching this on YouTube later. We should have it on our website. We have just secured a sieve. And I'm going to show you the one that, this is one of the pieces of the garden in dowry that my husband came with. He came with this great piece of land, these big gardens, a tiller and dump trucks, and all these wonderful just gifts to me as a budding gardener, going to be a flower farmer. One of the things that he came with was his grandpa's sieve. And y'all, it's full right now, is why I can't really turn it over. This has just got hard cloth on the bottom. That's just a metal, it looks like screen, but it's super heavy duty and it's only 1/4 inch. You can't use a screen. That's way too small. Anyway, we have sieves on the way to us. I bought a whole pallet that fits right inside a 5-gallon bucket for you to be able to do this. It's going to totally revolutionize how you're going to do this, because I want to give you some tips on making your own soil at home that's going to make it quick and easy. And really, I mean, if you're a home gardener, I would recommend using a 5-gallon bucket for your products. If you're a flower farmer, I would use galvanized trash cans, because what I recommend you do is that you get your sieve of whatever kind, whether you have a homemade one like I used. They have some that go across wheelbarrows, one that could go on top of a galvanized trash can or plastic trash can for that fact, for you to be able to sit it right on top of the container that you're going to leave that sifted dry product in until the day you mix it to make your soil blocks. Y'all, this makes it so easy. So you need 2 containers, one for compost, one for your peat moss or cocoa brick fiber, and you're going to sift the product right into that container. I recommend that you have some kind of lid that you can put on it just to keep it dry and to keep varmints out of it from nesting in it if you're keeping it outside. And then when the day comes that you need to soil block, you have your measuring cup, and you're just going to pull out of each of those containers and your nutrient mix. Or if you buy a bigger bag, if you're able to find it locally, if you live in farm country, there is a chance that you can find those raw products at a farm supply store. You can buy them online, but they're larger quantities than what most people need. This bag of nutrient mix makes 8 recipes. And a recipe, just for you to compare, one recipe of this with your peat moss and your compost makes about 20 cups of blocking mix. And out of 20 cups, you can make about 500 of those little blocks. So it goes a long way. So this could last you 2 to 3 seasons if you're a home gardener easily, right? So you would have this, your sifted peat moss and your sifted compost. And you just, anytime you're ready to just have it on your shelf. And if you're a farmer, just have your galvanized trash cans. You're going to use a bigger measurer. The recipe is right on the nutrient mix. The recipe is on our website always. It's usually on our digital catalog. It's readily available everywhere. This is Elliot Coleman's recipe. It's not mine. I did not make it up. And we do not know of other ingredients that you are substitutions for the green sand and rock phosphate. I often get asked that. And I talked to Elliot Coleman about that actually. And he was with, I am with him when he's the expert, not me. He said, there really is nothing to compare. For instance, the green sand that's in here isn't just about a nutrient addition. It also helps your blocks to hold more moisture. I mean, all those micronutrients and those micro ingredients just do more than what we think. So let's talk about the sifting process. So let me see if I can do this without totally trashing my spot. So I tried to sift. My attempt was to sift enough to be able just to show you some sifted stuff. I only did about, in a 5-gallon bucket, about this much peat moss and about this much compost. And I want you to see all the chunks. This entire, I don't want to stir it, y'all. This thing is about 1 inch deep in all of these chunks that are in here. I mean, there's nothing wrong with these chunks. You can put them out in your garden, but you cannot make soil blocks with these chunks in there. I'm just trying to pick some up. There's all kinds of sticks. So this sifting, you can surely use out in your garden. You just don't want it in your seed starting mix for soil blocking, right? So the end product, dusty, y'all. So here's a 5-gallon bucket, and here is the super nice, fine peat moss. And as I said, you can use peat moss or cocoa fiber. And friends, I will tell you, and I'm not going to get into this conversation, there are people on both sides of the fence, whether cocoa fiber is as sustainable as people want to think it is, thinking that peat moss isn't. You can read a lot about that online. You can use either one of them, whichever is that you feel comfortable with. And also here is some sifted compost. And friends, we buy bagged compost for this purpose. And here's another tip. If you buy bagged compost, I'm waiting to see if I'm wiping dirt on my face, y'all. If you buy bagged compost to use for your blocking mix, you should open the bag as soon as you get it home so it can air out and dry out. It's very wet in there, because I found that out this morning. You can see how my hands are dirty. The compost was really, I opened a new bag, and the compost was really too wet to really mix well. Because, we keep bagged compost because that's also what's in our sunflower seed mix that we're going to talk about here in a minute. So we buy any kind of compost. If you buy it in a bag, composted manure, mushroom compost, cow manure, chicken manure, whatever if it has the word compost and it's finished, that's what we're looking for, because we don't always have available on our farm truly finished compost ready to go. When you open a bag of real compost, it doesn't smell. I do not use or recommend the sewer sludge based product that is stinky, that is sold as organic compost. We don't use that. We use it for a deer repellent outside of our property on our fence perimeter, but we don't use it in our soil for other reasons. But any bag of compost, when you open it, should not have an odor. Open it when you bring it home, let it dry out some before you try to sift it. And again, friends, sifting directly, particularly if you're a gardener or a small grower and you're just going to use 5-gallon buckets, our sieve, I cannot wait till our sieve gets here, y'all. If it gets here in time, I'll have it next Saturday, and we'll do something. If not, the week after that, I'll do some on screen. So sitting down, just doing this job like in the dead of winter outside when it's chilly, so you don't mind wearing a mask because of all the dust, and we all pretty much have masks on hand now, right? Put a mask on and just fill your container up, whatever your container size is, so that you have it ready to roll, and it just makes seed starting so much easier. It is far more affordable than buying the ready-made mix. It's more sustainable for that reason. Shipping that soil was incredibly expensive. You paid what we actually paid. It was a flat rate box from the post office. So this is a way for you to really gain a little momentum on the expense side of starting seeds. And we do have cocoa fiber, the small bricks, on our website. That little brick makes about 2 gallons of dry product. So that may do you. Grab a bag of compost at your local garden center, get a cocoa brick or peat moss, whatever you want to do, and make it. And I recommend that you store the components separate. And I mix the nutrient mix so I get my container that I'm going to make the blocking mix that I make soil blocks in, and measure out my 16 cups of peat moss, my 4 cups of compost, mix them. Then I put the dry nutrient mix in and mix it and let it get really adhered to all that dry product. Then add your water, and all the instructions, as I said, is on our website, on our digital catalog, and it comes on the nutrient mix. And friends, we will figure this out. And I think that always change is a problem. It's hard, but we'll get into it. And I'm going to walk through you with that. So now I'm going to talk about what we do here every single Saturday. First off, look at these sunflowers. Oh, wrong side. Y'all see them right there? Those are the sunflowers we started. That is some of the bouquet mix, which is several of the different oranges. And it is like we are heading into sunflower season. So this is August 20th. My first expected frost is typically mid-November. And I grow primarily pro cuts, even though I am testing some other varieties that are shorter days like that. Pro cuts from seed to bloom are approximately 60 days. It will be a little bit longer in the fall if your temps cool down and if the days are really getting shorter, as they are, right? So pro cuts, I start and I push the envelope, y'all. I risk the last 2 plantings that I do are totally a gamble. But on the years that I get a late frost, it totally is worth it. So I continue to sow pro cuts, which are from 0 to bloom in 55 to 60 days, up to 50 days, 45 to 50 days before my frost. So I will continue doing what we're doing right here today, once a week, right up until the end of September. And sometimes you get very surprised, friends. You know, if you've been hanging with me for a long time, we did early bird sunflowers. You can go back and watch those back in, I guess it was early March. Sunflowers are a little cooler tolerant than we think if you give them what they need. So I start our sunflowers and we plant them every week. So we have sunflowers to cut every week. If you're a flower farmer, you're missing a huge opportunity. If you're a home gardener and you just want to have constant sunflowers, you don't have to do it every week. You could do it every other week. So these are 128 plug trays that you can find on our website. And I see that Jessie is posting the things that I'm mentioning that you can find easily over on our website. And this is the size that we grow them in. And the soil that's in these plug trays is 50% compost, that same compost, not sifted, that I bring home to make my blocking mix with, as well as just 50% potting soil. It doesn't have to be anything special, y'all. You just want potting soil, and you mix those together. We do that in a very large container. Bobo mixes them up, and literally I was out there doing it and thinking, you know, this is so easy. I do it so quick. I just put my trays down in that container, push all the soil on, scrape it all off, clean it all up, and I'm done. Here I am. And so that works really, really well. So we're planting several different kinds today, and I'm going to be using, as I always do, we use masking tape, and we love our garden marker. This holds up to UV rays and moisture, and so you won't go out there one morning and all the writing is just gone, which is exactly what happens with Sharpies. They are not made for outdoors, y'all. They are wonderful inside, but they are not made for this job. So the first thing I'm going to do is, so Marley, you'll find over on our website, Marley is quick to bloom. I mean, I don't have it written on here, but I think it's like 50 to 60 days. And Marley is a bicolor. And one of the problems with bicolor sunflowers, as is all the dark chocolates and the whites, is they either have soft necks and or they drop their petals prematurely. And Marley, I'm told by Dave Dowling, who is the expert, said Marley does not drop her petals early. So let me write the date, y'all. And I'm not sure if I have enough to do. I was going to do a whole tray, but I don't think I have enough. So I'm not going to mark the tray yet. Let's see how many seeds I have. So we've already started. I definitely don't have enough. I don't have any more bulk here. So I'm going to turn this down so y'all can watch me do it. So I am just dropping a seed on the surface of every one on the surface of each cell. Now, in the past, back in May, one of the tricks that we do to keep the blooms that nice small size that you saw, which is exactly what we want for making bouquets, and that's what commercial customers will love. They may not know it until you show it to them because they can't get those size sunflowers from the wholesale houses, y'all. This is such a niche for commercial growers. So back in May, those sunflowers bloom in the longest days of summer. And sometimes I'll put 2 to 3 seeds per cell and plant them that way to tighten the spacing so we can keep that really small sunflower head. Well, it looks like I almost. All right. So Marley is going to go to there. Let's just put that on here before I forget where I stopped. And let me just put an arrow on there. All right. And so let's finish this off. And now what do I want to, we're going to do Sunfill is not a pro cut. Sunfill is that sunflower that we grow for the head before it blooms to be filler. And it also is on that same timeline of 50 to 60 days. So I'm going to finish this tray off. This is super convenient to have for bouquet making as filler in the fall. And what's so really nice is that you can schedule them every week right along with your sunflowers. So we're cutting them long before they start showing petals. That's, you want them before that time, right? Sorry, y'all. So this is the purple. It also comes in green. You can find them both over on our website, and we actually sell them in a mix or individual. I really love the green because it's a lighter color. You're always looking for light colors to brighten up bouquets. But since we're going to fall, these will be blooming in the fall, I thought we'd do a few purples here and have them for our photo shoots too. All right. So now what we do next, let me just get rid of these, is we just put our fingers on the seeds and push them about halfway down into the tray. And so sunflowers germinate best, I can't speak, y'all. I have already done a podcast this morning with Lane, our seed manager. So you'd think that I'd be awake here. So I'm just pushing them halfway in. Sunflowers germinate best when they are covered with soil because that darkness encourages better sprouting, and it also helps them to just shuck off that husk once the sprout starts coming out. He flew right out of his little space. And so I'm just pushing them down in there. Now, if I were to stop and look down in the cells right now, you could still see the sunflowers in some of them. But when I go indoors, when I go to, wait a minute, I'm just going to stack these on top of each other. Oh, guess what? I didn't put the tape. I see y'all, this is how easily distracted I am. I did not write on here August 20th, and that was Sunfill Purple. So easy, and you just don't know how easy it is to get confused when you're planting. The girls really appreciate good identification, because then I ask them to plant them in a certain way, but they can't figure quite out what they're going to do. All right, two of the others that I want to grow is we started offering this year Vincent's Choice and Vincent's Fresh. And they look like pro cuts, just meaning that they're orange petals. One has a brown disc and one has a green disc. But what the difference is, and friends, this is why you got to try all the different sunflowers. There's different qualities. Vincent has more petals. And as Dave Downing pointed out to me, it is super nice to be able, if a grasshopper or somebody bites one of the petals, you can pluck a petal off and you can't even tell it's gone. As well as these heads face not straight up like Pro Cut Horizon, but they have an orientation that is a little bit more upward facing. All right, y'all. A lot of these, I'm out of seeds. I'm going to have to get a restock from the warehouse. So I'm going to just put that there. I want to do the Vincent Fresh. And I'm sorry, I can't tell you. One has got the green disc and the other one's got the brown. I'm not sure how many seeds we have here. So let's try out Vincent Fresh first and see how far he will go. So sometimes sunflowers appear to look the same to you when you're looking at a picture of them, but in fact, they have qualities that make you want to grow them more. And that's why we added Marley. I mean, not only is Marley a short, will grow in a short number of days, if he in fact holds his petals better, he'll become a major player on our farm. People love bicolored sunflowers, but they just don't hold up like the rest of them. I think the Plum Pro Cut is one of my absolute favorites. All right, y'all, I'm trying to be quick about this because I have 4 trays to do. We've already done 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the last row. So I did have enough to do all of them. And this is Vincent Fresh. Definitely need more seeds of those. All right. So if you haven't joined me yet, we have a new phone app, and I do a live show on Fridays at 12 noon. And you can also catch the replays in the app. The app, if you go to your app store and search Gardener's Workshop Live Shop, you can download it to your phone. If you don't want to add it to your phone, you can actually watch it on our website. Go to thegardenersworkshop.com, go to the shop. The little drop-down menu comes, and the very top choice is Live Shop. And if you go there during the live show, it displays there, and you can also watch the replays. And here's why you want to join me. I show all those flowers that are behind me that you were seeing. That's what those were from. They were from the show yesterday. I go through and give additional growing tips and harvesting information and showing what's blooming on the farm and why we grow stuff. But in addition to that, we introduce new products. We give special offers. And those offers are good through 8. Y'all, I just spilled sunflower seeds all over the floor, of which I'm not putting up right now. I guess I'm going to find out if we got mice in here. All right. So I'm going to lay the seed packet down there so I'll know which ones they are. So we do special offers, special bundles, meaning I'll put stuff together that's sold separately over on our website and give special pricing. And so it's really a lot of fun. And we usually do a giveaway. You know what I gave away yesterday? A $40 Hori Hori garden knife. It was awesome. And we typically give away things that are not available for sale. And we have a huge turnout for that. And we're only able to ship to the 50 United States. We aren't able to do international shipping. So we love it when our international friends join us, because not only is it a platform where you can shop, y'all, it's basically QVC with gardening, right? So I'm going to put another stack on top. I'm making my stack taller and taller. And you know what? There is tape on this side I need to take off, because won't that be confusing? All right, let's get this tape. So I'm telling you, the tape really sticks, masking tape. All right, so let's put another one on top here. So you can join me over there on your phone app. Oh, I didn't put this. This is half and half. Or you can watch it on our website. It's tons of fun. You can also watch it on Facebook, but you have to take some extra steps to actually enter. Did I miss one? No. So I think I'm going to do a whole one of these. Let's see if we have enough. All right. Sorry, y'all. Changing my game plan based on what our seed situation is here. So people are really loving it. It's just really helpful. And instead of learning about stuff like you are right now and going and searching for it, you can actually purchase it immediately. And it's really, really helpful. All right. So let's see how many of these we can get in here. So the rest of the sunflower story, let's talk about that. So I will take these in after I'm all done, put them on my grow room floor, water them in using a watering can with a sprinkler head on it, and water the trays really deeply. What that means to me is I'm a double dipper always. I always go over any container that I'm watering, not soil blocks, but containers. That would be plug trays and pots. I always water and then go back to the beginning and water all over again. Usually a lot of the water just flushes through on the first bout. Then when you go back and do it again, it really moistens it. So I'll water it in. That will wash the mix that's on the walls of these cells, and will wash and totally cover the soil, the seed that's in there. How I was saying earlier, if you looked in here after I push them in, you could actually see the seed still. That will not be the case after they're watered. Then I will pop these up onto a seedling heat mat, which gets them to sprout quickly and uniformly. And one of the problems that a lot of people that don't use heat experience is a poor or a puny root system. And then when you go to plant your plants, when you pull the stem and you feel like you're practically going to rip the stem off of the roots, then that's from not enough heat when they were germinating. I have learned that doing the seed starting heat mat at this process, even though our room gets really hot during the day, it's not really warm at night, and it just aids in the process, and I end up with a better transplant that's easier and quicker to transplant, right? So I'll pop them onto a seedling heat mat. Then once 50% show signs of life, meaning cracking, splitting, opening up, you can see the little neck coming up, then that's considered germinating. And once 50% of them have done that, sorry, y'all, got to get more seeds. Then that's when I move them to either grow lights, as I'm doing now to protect them from varmints outside, or move them outside into full sun, and water them every morning and treat them like you would any transplant growing on. We then plant them when they're 2 to 3 weeks old. In fact, for us, we find that 2.5 weeks is like the perfect time. And that means when we pull on the stem, the whole cell comes up and you don't feel like you're going to rip the stem from the roots. We plant them out into 30-inch wide beds. We put 5 rows in that bed, and in the row, the plants are 6 inches apart. The bed had dry organic fertilizer mixed with it when we prepared it. We do not use the biodegradable film that I use in all my other transplant beds because these aren't in the garden very long. It just isn't really needed or justified. So we plant without mulch. We also do not use irrigation. We just get so much rainfall here in southeastern Virginia, about 51 inches a year, and we don't find it necessary. If you don't have that kind of rain, then you definitely need to, where did I put let's get rid of these leftover tapes. Then you're going to need to apply irrigation. So what we do is, after we plant our transplants, we then hand water with a hose and a wand really deeply to get them off to a great start. And then they're pretty much on their own. They also benefit from support netting, which keeps them from going down in rainstorms and windstorms. However, because we grow such a vast number of them, we don't do that any longer. We take a gamble. If you're a small grower, I 100% recommend that you net them, because if you're a small grower, that means you don't have much space, and that means you're depending on every one of those blooms. Sorry, y'all. The masking tape sticks so dadgum good. All right. Here we go. I do have 2 left. All right. And literally, we don't go back to that bed until they're blooming. Like, I have a bed that's on the verge of blooming. That's why we're having a big photo shoot here this Tuesday night, kind of unexpected. And what is my other one? Premiere. All right, y'all, wait a minute. I'm sorry I have to write these names, because if I screw it up, my boss's Bobo, basically, will get me. Because she can't do her job if I don't do my job. And I guess I could bring y'all up a little bit higher so we can see each other. So that back there, there's just tons of harvest around here. Some you can see, some you can't. That are the leftover. That's what was the show yesterday inside the app. It really works out beautifully. I mean, people have always wanted to know what the flowers look like. 2, 4, 6, 8. All of that, you know, and being able to show them live big bunches of that flower. And it just really has been really helpful to us and to folks. All right, so we're doing the last one, y'all. I am burning it up here today, all right, and then I'm going to do the Q&A. So, and this is why I'm constantly trialing sunflowers based on recommendations from people like Dave Dowling, that, you know, there's far more than a pretty face when it comes to a cut flower. Strong necks, do they hold their petals? Are they pollenless? And why would we want a pollenless flower? Everybody together now, they still produce nectar, but when they produce pollen, that really affects their vase life, as well as it drops pollen all over the customer's tabletop. So you don't want pollen. But let me tell you, you can go out and look. There are bees all over my garden and on sunflowers that have opened out in the garden, because you know you're supposed to cut them before that happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more. Y'all, I'm so easily distracted. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We plant sunflowers at least 26 weeks a year. I got to count that again, because I think we're now doing more like 32 weeks doing the early bird sunflowers. And as a commercial grower, if you want to do the math, when we were doing 26 weeks of sunflowers, when we were in high production, which was 8 years, for 8 years, we were in what we called high production. We planted 1,200 sunflowers a week for 26 weeks. Wholesale pricing back then was $1.25 a stem, meaning that's what florists would pay us for them. And I sold out every week. That is what purchased me a John Deere tractor to the tune of $31,000, as well as, the implements I needed. 1 season of sunflowers. You know, it never works out that way, but that's what I calculated on when I was considering, how do I justify, do I need a tractor? And that's what turned the table for us. And learning about sunflowers and all the ins and outs of that is totally what turned my career. And sunflowers are so much more than what people think. So much more, y'all. All right, we're almost done. And then I'm going to do your questions. And I'm pretty stoked. I've told you I'm working on something, but I'm even more stoked because Flower Farming School enrolls in just 2 months. And that is really an amazing time for me to have fresh students. I don't mean that fresh students, people that are just so eager to learn. And we have so many avid gardeners, and what I call flower junkies, people that grow, cut flowers, because whether they do church flowers or they have, I mean, we have a lot of philanthropy flower growing going on. People that are growing to gift, I mean, from abused women's shelters with kids. And I mean, there's just so many opportunities that you can gift. You know, you and I'll guess $40 can grow so many bouquets to give away to your friends, to those people that need a lift. Which, once you do that and you're so successful, true story, you could be here doing what I'm doing. Why did I become a flower farmer? I absolutely I figured out how to start seeds, became an overnight success, loved growing flowers. If you want them to keep blooming, you got to keep cutting them. And to do that, you got to have somewhere for them to go. So I had to sell them. All right, friends, let me clear the deck here so I can answer your questions. So all these guys are going to go in the grow room and follow that journey that I just outlined for you. And here we go. Let's see what you guys got here. I trash Suzanne's table every week. because on the other side of this is where she sits doing the tech for the show. And there's a big TV screen here and all kinds of stuff. All right. Yes. I'm going to go back to the top, but I see that Janie says nursing home residents love to arrange flowers. And I'm going to just tell you this short story because I do have time. That is, in fact, how I really got my start in flower farming. So my grandma had a major stroke. She was completely paralyzed and she was in a home. And my day to go stay with her was Tuesdays. And as you can imagine, I mean, it's hard. It's hard for her. It's hard for you. You don't know what to do. She can't really do anything. So I started taking some zinnia. I had a little row of zinnias in my garden, my big vegetable patch, and I started taking zinnias each week. One thing led to another, and I started taking flowers for them to arrange to put on all the dining tables. And I would take them every Tuesday, and it was really pretty daggum awesome. And you are so right that there is just such opportunity. And even though flower farming school is targeted to people that want to grow flowers commercially, in the first week of flower farming school, I will tell you a lot of the information in week one can be applied to a lot of areas of life about clearing your calendar and figuring out what are you doing all day? What are you wasting all your time on? There's a lot of business stuff in the first week of getting your business started and stuff, but the rest of it is building your garden, what to grow and how to sell, and then conditioning and harvesting. So there's a lot there that's for everybody. So I just am saying this because if you're an avid gardener or a flower junkie or just somebody that wants to learn, that wants to grow like a flower farmer in your yard, it's beneficial, particularly Dave Downing's class. His class doesn't register again until next June. And I say that because we only open registration for 5 days a year for each school, and you better get in when you can. Get on the wait list so you won't forget. All right, friends. So hello, everybody. I see we have lots of students on here. I just appreciate when y'all identify yourself, where you say you're from. And so we have folks from all over Canada, and would love to hear about techniques for late October sunflowers. Well, Claudine, that definitely depends on when your first frost date is. The sunflowers that I'm talking about growing, Pro Cut series, as well as some of the others that I mentioned, are day length neutral. That means that even as our days get shorter, they will set bud. However, they will definitely be a smaller bloom unless, and this is another reason to not put your sunflowers outdoors right away when you're starting them at this time of the year. By giving them longer, 16 hours a day is what the timer is set on for our grow room of light. By giving them that length, they will grow to be bigger blooms out in the garden. It's called interruption lighting. So if you can also set a timer to just turn a lamp on in the middle of the night for 1 hour out on your porch. And that hour of interruption of darkness will also allow your sunflowers to grow bigger blooms. So that is the greatest tip that you can take away for October sunflowers. But it also depends on when your frost date is. They need some heat, but they are more cold tolerant, but they will be slower and smaller at this time of the year. And I see that Jesse's on here sharing with everybody. Please do hit the thumbs up button and the arrow to share this broadcast with your flower friends. We appreciate it so much. And to subscribe on YouTube. And so Nancy asks, what can I direct seed in zone 9 today? Well, Nancy, zone 9 just tells you that you could fall plant all the cool flowers. They're all winter hardy in your zone, but it is way too early. Typically, you're targeting to plant in that neighborhood of 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost date. Your zone only tells you what you can plant. Your frost dates tell you when you can plant. And y'all, I don't know if you've seen it, but a new podcast just came out on Joe Gardner, the joegardnershow.com. If y'all don't know him, it's Grow a Greener World on PBS. He has a garden show, has had it for 13 years. Joe's a friend, awesome vegetable grower. I was just his guest again, and we talked cool flowers. It just went live yesterday, and it talks about a lot of this. So I would definitely recommend you checking that out. And I bet Jesse will run over and grab a link and put it on here so you can listen. So it's way too early for warm season. You can definitely continue to plant sunflowers, but again, we don't recommend direct seeding them. We recommend starting them inside. It's just easier to maintain them, to get more to sprout, and it's just less work. So Janie asks, how long until they flower? And I'm sure you're talking about sunflowers. Well, you have to depend. There are sunflowers that are from 0 to 120 days before they bloom, and other varieties like the ones we're talking about that are 0 to 60 days till they bloom. And in fact, there's one, Premier Orange, which is 45 to 60 days till it blooms. You have to know the variety. It tells you usually right in the description or on your seed packet. So, the closest you get to your frost date, the cooler it is and the little bit longer it's going to take. But sunflowers are more cold tolerant. They can usually get past even with a little row cover thrown on them. I mean, you can do try all kinds of heroic things. Once you sell sunflowers late in the fall and see how in demand they are, you do all kinds of crazy things to be able to have them. So hello, Susan from Texas. So here's Ann. Ann, what a great idea. Ann says she's been using half circles of chicken wire around her sunflower seedlings outside. It is very frustrating. So 2 weeks ago, we started 2 trays of Marley and Vincent's, the ones like we did this morning. That's why I restarted them now, and put them out there. Beautiful. They were this tall, and just one afternoon with no protection, almost all of them were either plucked out or the tops were taken off. Oh gosh, makes me so mad. So that would be a great remedy, is chicken wire. I'll have to think about that. Now that we're not growing so many, I just usually do 1 to 2 trays. We need something that keeps out. And the other thing is, it's wrens that really do the damage, and they're tiny. So you have to have a really small wire for my protection. And we have people all over. We have Jess from Maine. We have people from all over. 6B in Kentucky. And she's starting cool flowers. Good for you. So am I. Dry Dock Flower Farm says, hi from Yvonne in North Carolina, listening with my earbuds in while I'm at the farmer's market. You go, girl. And here we have Patience. Hello from Norfolk, the UK, Norfolk in England. So pleased to catch you live. Just brought my first soil blocks last week after seeing your recommendation. Awesome. So, we import the soil blockers from England. That's where they're made. They're made in England. We call them the Soil Blocking Sisters. There's a group of 3 sisters and a brother that are in business that take care of that whole. It's a huge operation to make those. And then we import them and sell them here. And we just totally love working with them. And my dream is that one day Suzanne and I, who is my sister, and that the U.S. sisters are going to connect with the UK sisters, and that we'll reunite over there, and we will for sure do a live event. And I don't know when that'll be, but anyway. So friends, we just love seeing these sunflower emojis. So Melissa is saying with 3 sunflower emojis that she has taken 3 of our courses, and we just thank you so, so much. And here's another, Jenny Lee. She's taken a lot of our courses. So let's see, Naomi. I had a lot of failures my first year soil blocking. Looking forward to next year. So first off, Naomi, I don't know where you are, but there's cool season stuff that you can practice on, like lettuces and things that you can plant in pots. And I practiced for a long time. There's definitely an art to it. And so don't give up. You just have to figure it out. And it is so quick and easy, less stuff, less space. I just can't say enough about it. And I just really want you to keep after it, right? And I want to highlight this note that Jessie shared on there, because she is so true. A note about rock phosphate, which is one of the components of the nutrient for the soil blocking mix for you to make. It is often available in the granular size, and that is too large for soil blocking. And I know people that have tried to grind it. I know somebody that actually ruined their food processor trying to grind it down. You can, again, if you want to buy larger quantities, and when I say larger, I mean, there's 50-pound bags for sure that are available out there. Not only will that last you for the rest of your life, it's super heavy, 50 pounds. To have that shipped to you is pretty costly, right? But there are boxes I've seen, which would be enough for a long time, but they're heavy. But you got to have rock phosphate powder and green sand. Thank you, Jesse, for highlighting that. So people are connecting on here, and I totally love that. So Kathy says that deer are eating her sunflower plants, and that is totally normal. However, I hate to even say this out loud, our deer have never really picked on our sunflowers. I think there's so much other good stuff in my neighbor's yard, but deer spray definitely works. If you just give a spray and follow the directions every 30 days, if that's what your instructions say. The cheaper types of deer spray are typically only good for only hold stick for 7 days. So you got to read those instructions. I like Tree Guard, Liquid Fence, and a product called I Must Garden. It's imustgarden.com. They have several varmint sprays on there. And you mix them up each month. Use a different one, but you just have to be diligent. It's like mice in your house. You'll never stop them unless you put a true deer fence up. So I'm sorry, Kathy. I feel your pain. There's another student. So here, Barbara asked, do these go on the heat mat and under grow lights? So Barbara, yes, I do put sunflowers on the Seedling Heat Mat to get that strong root system quickly and the sprouting going. And you can do one of two things once 50% is germinated. You can move them out onto outside into full blasting warm sun if you don't have a varmint problem or you need to protect them. But what I'm doing now also to provide them with the full 16 hours of sunlight to get them to bloom bigger once they get to the garden is I'm growing them under grow lights in my grow room until they're just about ready to go to the garden. We'll throw them outside for probably a few days before we plant them out in the garden. But they do really, really well. And I see that Jesse has shared several of the sunflowers I mentioned. Thank you so much, Jesse. And Naomi asked, is it worth it to succession plant bells of Ireland? I find mine get yellow so quick. Where I am, definitely not. Totally. If you live in New England or in the northern region or somewhere where your summers are not hot and humid, potentially you could. We fall plant them. If you're in zone 7, 8, or 9, you definitely need to fall plant them to get any stem length out in the garden. But if we try, and I did it this year, we planted some by transplant, which was difficult to get them to germinate indoors, for me anyway. We planted them out and they got okay length, but you're so right. They fall victim to disease as soon as the heat and humidity comes. But again, you never know until you try it. And don't plant an entire bed. Plant a 3 to 5 foot bed of them again and see what happens. And then you'll put that to bed. You'll either say, holy cow, it worked, or you'll move on to something else. And you can, it's just, you really just have to try stuff. And what I find people do is they overdo it when they're trialing. And that just is discouraging. So give that a try. So Jesse, this is the link on our website where you can go to our page where you can either watch the live show there or see the replays or get the apps, go to the app store for your actual phone. So here, what is this? You Facebook user. I'm debating on how wet these should be. I think when they were too wet, half rotted, I tried water canning them and I think I watered too heavily. So I'm guessing you're talking about sunflowers, and they should be thoroughly moistened, but they should be in a warm environment so they dry out in 24 hours. And that will prevent anything from rotting. Let's see what Sandra's question is. I hear somebody outside. Sorry, just listening, y'all. Or is that my air conditioner? Can you further explain breaking the short day cycle by turning on a separate light for an hour during the hours when the grow lights are off? So my understanding from Dave Dowling is, if you grow your sunflower transplants under grow lights and are giving them the full 16 hours, which is what we give all of our transplants under grow lights, then you don't need the interruption light. But if you're growing them out, I mean, if you're bumping them outside because you don't have grow light space available, right? By putting just an incandescent light, it doesn't have to be a grow light, in that vicinity to come on for 1 hour during the night to break the dark cycle, that will do the same job. So again, that's assuming you don't have varmints, you know what I mean? So it's just easier to grow them under grow lights inside if you have that space. But not everybody has racks and racks and racks like I do. So that's why I offer that as a remedy. Yes, Janie, I already talked about that, about growing and taking flowers to nursing homes. I mean, to go there on the morning after a market or something that you have leftovers, you know, you just can't believe what you can do. All right, good question. At this time of year, zone 8, do I use clover or buckwheat as cover crop? So to answer your question, again, it all depends on your first frost date. You plant crimson clover, which is a cool season hardy annual cover crop, like you would a cool flower. So you're looking to get that in the ground 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost date. But I'll tell you what, one of my friends, Mark Smith, does. He mixes buckwheat and clover together at this time of the year and sows them together. And that way the buckwheat germinates quickly, and then the clover comes along and germinates as it cools down. But I tell you, I did it last year, but I did it too early. And I tell you what the problem was. My buckwheat germinated beautifully, but it then went to bloom within 30 days, and then it went to seed before cold came. So I'm not doing that again. I need to like probably just sow buckwheat. It's only 30 days from seed to bloom. Then plant your crimson clover. So you could go either way on that. So good morning, all from 8B. Y'all, I got to go. From 8B, Pacific Northwest, third day in a row of wonderful clouds in the morning, expecting high of 83. Ooh, that sounds like good weather to me. That's me. I'm a flower junkie who loves to share with the elderly. Y'all, you just don't know how rewarding this can be. And, you know, you always have to be careful, like people in cancer treatment. Sometimes they can't have live plants or flowers just because of contamination stuff. But people under those circumstances, oh my gosh, we could tell some of the most heartwarming stories over all of that. All right, this is my last one. Question: in the small white tray in your seed starter pack, I can get 60 soil blocks, but most seed packs are packed 50 or 100. Having partial pack leads to seeds being spilled or just other issues. Any ideas? Also love giving to the local assisted living facility. So Janet, you know, I understand the seed count in seed packets is 100% based on how much the seed cost us as to how many seeds we can put in there. And because not everybody is soil blocking, you know, we kind of go with those norms of usually it's 25, 50, and 100 or 200 is what we kind of try to stick with. Because then we have commercial growers that are using these size trays, which hold 100, or cafeteria trays, which hold 240. So there is variables. I say this is what Bobo does. Bobo just rubber bands our seed packets together. So if she has 10 seeds in one pack, so she has another pack to start with, they're all rubber banded right there together. I mean, that's what I would say to do. And I think that, you know, the thing that for me as a flower farmer kept me from sharing and keeps me today from being able to share my flowers is there isn't enough time in when you're working full time, especially as a farmer, there you never get all your work done. You have the time to hand the flowers to somebody to go do something with, but you don't have a morning or an afternoon to go to a nursing facility. And that's what it takes, because they're not staffed with people to do this with these folks most often. And they don't know what they're doing anyway. You know what I mean? They're not flower people, right? To connect with your local flower grower and say, hey, you know, I'm willing to pick up the flowers every week on this day, you know, after this time, I'll pick them up, bring my own buckets. So I don't take your buckets, transfer them, and just make the flowers vanish. And I'll take them to a nursing home and do whatever. Because I'll tell you, as a busy full-time business person, things happen. People either stop picking them up, and it takes labor to get them all put in a place where they can be picked up. Then if somebody doesn't show up, then they have to be retaken back. That may not sound like much, but its time is precious in a work day. And not to mention for me, I have employees. Time is money, y'all. It's your time or even an employee's time. To be that person that says, I will pick up those flowers when you tell me to and make them vanish, and I'm going to do something good with them. I bet you'll find somebody that'll do that. That would be pretty awesome. And friends, thank you so much for joining me here. And again, I want to say, anybody that's our student that's taken any of our schools, for you to give shout outs to say, hey, I'm a student of these courses, feel free to tap me. I'll tell you what I thought, what my experience was. And that's what we depend on, is word of mouth. You can go to the pages on our website, and there are tons of reviews on all of them that you can learn more about them. And we'd love to have you join us, because one of the ways that I chose instructors for us, it's not just me. I publish courses just like publishing books for other instructors. And those are people that I handpicked. They're people that were my peers, that are excellent teachers. They have teacher hearts. Dave Dowling, Jenny Love, Val Shermer. I can't name them all right now. I'm sorry, my mind just went blank. But they were all people that are doing it, that are sharing what we find as commercial growers as the quickest, easiest, least expensive way to do everything. Ellen Frost, who is our instructor she is a designer that only uses local sourcing, meaning she only buys from flower farmers. She teaches other florists how to do that, and and people that are farmer florists, how they can connect with other florists or other farmers. And y'all, it's just, if you want to deal with local flowers and build a business, we got you covered. So friends, check out thegardenersworkshop.com. I'll get off here before I get any more tongue-tied. And thank you all for joining. Thank you, Jesse, for being there to support me here this morning. I love showing y'all all of our seed starting babies. And friends, it is cool flower season. It's time to get busy. Till we meet again, friends. Ciao.